let's move right along. We're gonna get into our basketball ideology. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is it's going back to what we discussed earlier with the situation with Duke, right? So
Mhm.
I've actually used it in training, the Duke collapse, and I think me personally, because as a trainer dealing, I don't really think I have, and I could be wrong, but from the kids information when I'm talking to them about different things when they're practicing, and this is on a lot of different levels, high school, city league. Obviously, younger ones they're not going to do it, but on the more older, sophisticated, there's not a lot of time score situation teaching with kids. So I use the Duke collapse to try to use it in a way to where I can teach kids time score situation. Right now you're up two. They got the ball. How are you going to defend this? They need a three. It's under 5 seconds. What are we doing? And try to put kids in situations where they have to really be stressed in it, right? Because in games you can prepare as much as you want, but if you're not comfortable with it, you're going to be stressed in there. You might miss one little slip, and you've seen where some people get off open shots, and you're like, man, how did that happen? What do you guys think?
Um, for me, like I'm really big on details. Um, Especially uh, when I coached high school, like we had I think our Wednesdays were, hey, situational basketball. We're up 10, 5 minutes left. What are we doing? Down four, a minute left, up four, 30 seconds left. Like, what are we doing? And I think the method that I use really helped my program because it was more of a question and answer thing. And they were giving me the answers, and then I would kind of redirect. And so when you, and it goes back to player led team is going to be better than a coach led team. So then you have players having dialogue. Well, coach, I thought this, I thought that, because if I dribble four times, that's four seconds. If we got four passes, 4 seconds. So they begin to start opening up their imagination and just finding solutions. Because obviously there's many ways for the solutions. But I think Kay, you hit it on the head. Um, it's not taught enough, especially in club basketball. We only have so much time. You look at my situation, I've got kids 6, 7.5 hours away. So we meet, once a month or once, twice a month. And, there's not much time, but it still has to be done. So, um, I mean, the more we teach, the better play we're going to get. And I think it starts with the grassroots from fifth grade. The thing that you're doing, Kay, with that fifth grade group is great. I mean, those guys are learning, they're getting better. Um, you know, the problem is, I like it. I tell my kids, because, and I'll say this, and I'll cut it short here. Um, they learn so much basketball. They start questioning you. I'm like, oh, you
Yeah.
smarter than me now. So it's a running joke, but it's also a blessing because now they're coming up with solutions, if that makes sense.
Right, right. Coach?
It comes down to practice and what things are you working on in practice. Um, when I was in high school, especially in high school at the high school level, we tried to make our practice everything was situation. Hey, we try to play an advantage and a disadvantage. Hey, we do 3-on-2s, and we talk about, hey, this is how we're doing it. This is how we're defending if we're short of it. This is how we're defending if we've got an extra. And then we would devote times. We would have situation games where we come up with a list of situations. And at the end of practice, hey, we're gonna go over these 4 situations. First one, hey, up two or down two with 40 seconds to play it out, and we would keep stats and see who won the situation at the end of the week. Hey, blue team, you guys won this you won a situations game, but we would do it. We would do that at the college level, just once, just to kind of break up the monotony of practice, but two, just to put yourself in a situation where you're working on all these different situations that come up. Hey, you're at the end of the shot clock, and you need to get a shot off. What's our situation? How, what are we going to call a set? Are we going to call a play? So I think in practice, you need to build in time to make sure that you're working on all these different situations and sit down with your assistant at the end of the year, or even during the year. Hey, we just came across a situation. We saw this last night watching the game. We need to be prepared for this situation. And we had a sheet full of different situations that we would use. We'd take 5 off one practice, go to the next 5, and then we would adjust. And if there's something we didn't like, maybe we bring that situation back a couple of days later and work on that again. But it comes down to practice and what you're focusing on.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm gonna skip some of these other topics. I'm gonna keep it right here because it's had me to expand on a few things. So one of my biggest, I'm not gonna even go there. I'm gonna ask you guys, when you have a game, and for whatever happens, if you have your guards struggle, let's say your guards weren't able to handle the press, right? Or they weren't able to have handle the pick and roll where the defense was blitzing, or maybe they were on defense and they weren't, shading the guard to go where they needed them to go. The next time you guys have practice, do you guys, put stuff in place to address that and put those kids in those same situations? Or do you just kind of say, that was maybe a one-off and you continue with your practices? I'll start with you, Lee.
I'm one of those, I'm going to put you in the fire type coaches, because a lot of kids are hesitant, whether it be fear, whatever that is. And a lot of the fear is I haven't practiced it. I don't know the solutions. I don't trust my skill set. And so, like, example, if a player panics when they get trapped, that's going to be one of the first things that we do. I mean, you're going to see this every day until it doesn't mean as much to you, until you're allowed to, your emotional center never moves. And so, and I got to understand as a coach, those first 5 reps for this particular player is going to be bad. I got to understand that. We got to, and the thing that I would do with that particular player, because I had 2 last year, we would just slow it down. And so I would tell him, man, you can see things faster the sooner you get your eyes up on it, right? Because some players like to catch the ball and they're not looking at anything. They're just worried about a trap. So it's more so just seeing it before it happens and then being able to respond. And you could dribble too early. You could not dribble soon enough. It's just understand that and understand the proximity of where the defense is coming and where you need to go. And so for me, I put players in that situation every single day until, and, maybe it's going to help everybody else because maybe there's somebody else that is scared of a trap that I don't know about. And so that's kind of how I do it.
Coach?
You absolutely have to address it. Like that very next day of practice, one of the first things we're working on is how we're handling this situation. Because, people watch. And so if they watch film and say, hey, number 21 can't handle the pressure, so let's trap him. What you bet what's going to happen the next game? He's going to get trapped. Next time after that. So you've got to address it right then and there. Otherwise, it's going to be a situation for you going forward. You're going to have a lot less success than you should.
Right.
Can I add something to that?
Mm-hmm.
I think when players see it on film, they become more alert as far as, coach, that looks crazy. Coach, that's bad. Okay, I got to fix that. So, I mean, you can tell a player 1,000 times, coach, I'm not doing that. In their mind, they're saying they're not doing that until you see it on film.
Film don't lie.
I'm telling you, coach.
Yeah.
So once they see it on film, and then you can kind of go through it, and then they'll kind of be down on themselves. You say, no, look, man, all you got to do is, pass fake here, as you said earlier, okay? A pass fake, they jump in the air, go. So the first thing I might do is pass fake. If they don't respond to that, then I go to, plan B. But I think
Right.
them seeing it and going through it, seeing it one-on-one first, if possible, and then with the team, so they're not so Kanye West sensitive. I think it'll be a
Well, hey
great
man,
thing.
what's up with you and Kanye West today, man? That's like the third, fourth time you didn't mention Kanye.
Man, anytime I think of somebody who's sensitive, it's the first person I think of. There's another one, but I love him so much, I wouldn't say it. KD,
Oh, man.
I think KD
Yeah,
is uber
yeah.
sensitive, uber sensitive. You know,
Kanye, look, hey, Kanye go put us in a song. He go talk about time the ball wasn't no balling at all or something like that. I kind of like that line.
oh, you got bars. That's how you. K got some bars. Okay,
Okay, well, look, the
Street
reason
Cred
why,
Sports Records.
hey, you know, if it's gonna be Street Cred Sports Records, I'm following the Death Row method. You don't want nobody up in your videos. Come to Death Row. Hey, well, let me get back to it. All right, so the reason I post that to y'all is I deal with a lot of situations, and I know I shouldn't expect you coaches, younger people, youth city league coaches and players to follow this format, but it does boggle my mind how I'll have parents say, well, we played in this tournament and every team pressed us, right? And we couldn't handle it, so we got blown out. So then I'll ask them, okay, so when you came back, what was your practices like? Well, it was the same thing, layups, scrimmages and stuff. And I would say, so they didn't address it? And they say no. So then I have to address it, which is part of what I do. And now those kids are more successful in dealing with it because the one thing, to your point, Lee, the one thing that I have tried to teach players is, and this is no fault of coaches, because you guys are coaching, the plays, you're running the plays and stuff, and the players have to get it down here so they know I got to be on top, I got to be here, I got to be moving and stuff. But one thing that I have noticed is some players are so fixated that I got to get the ball and pass, and I got to run and cut, that they don't always stop the play and slow it down to see that as I'm catching the ball, as I'm looking to pass here, this player that's defending me is on point with getting ready to slide over into defensive help. So if I catch the ball and I fake the pass, I can now rip through and attack the basket, right? So some coaches don't, I'm not saying some, it could be a very small, especially on the youth level. Some players aren't getting the I call it the it's pre-looks, where they're pre knowing what the play is going to be. So when they catch the ball, they can pretty much know a couple of options to how to attack, right? And that's one thing that I think we need to get better at on the youth level. Although sometimes in high school, it kind of happens, but I know it's not happening in college, where, and I know it shouldn't be happening on high level AAU, where you're not having these situations where at least you aren't preparing those players. If they don't do it, that's a them problem. But at least you guys are trying to prepare it, right?